Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us in celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. My name is Stephanie Murray, and I currently serve on the Kyle Arts and Cultural Commission, and this morning I'll be serving as your Mistress of Ceremonies. Our theme for this event is MLK Celebration, Perspectives for Social Justice. We're very excited to have y'all both in person and on the live stream. And first, I'd like to begin by thanking everyone who made this event possible. Thank you to the Kyle Arts and Cultural Commission, the Kyle Public Library, the Kyle-Buda Kiwanis Club, Fredrick Douglass White, AMVET's Post 115 Life member, Kyle City Council members, and of course, a huge thank you to all Hayes CISD student participants. I'd like to give some special shout outs this morning. Welcome to Commissioner Dr. Michelle Cohen, Commissioner Heiser, Commissioner Zuniga, and Councilman Tobias. I'd also like to give a special thank you to Dr. Vanessa Westbrook, Colleen Tierney, and Michael Kaufman-Lynch for all of your hard work. We will begin this morning with a short prayer led by Mr. Fredrick Douglass White, AMVET's Post 115 Life member. Mr. White has written an original prayer with elements highlighting speeches by Dr. King. We would like to begin with this prayer due to Dr. King's passion for his faith, which led him through many victories and dark periods within his life. Welcome, Mr. Douglass White.
Thank you. The Lord is for me. I will not fear. What can man do to me? This is a day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let us bow, please. Our Father, as we assemble ourselves here together in celebration of a gift, a glorious, marvelous gift of life and love, in the form of a man blessed by you, God, to become a man of destiny for all mankind. Dear God, you have given us this opportunity of celebration to enhance our hope, to grow our faith and our love for each other, and strengthen our character. God, we are grateful. God, for your daily care of us, we can only say thank you. Thank you for your implanting this hope in us. Yes, this hope. This celebration of hope, of love, of faith will carry us through the small towns, large towns. It will carry us through the valleys and over all the tallest mountains. Let it trickle faith with pure justice and wash out all injustice in our movement. Dr. Martin Luther King spoke long ago. Sooner or later, all the people of the world will have to discover a way to live together. Stay with us, God. You made us, and we will work hard to show our gratefulness. Dr. King told us as a reminder, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Now, God, in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, I pray and I say thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Douglass White. Next, we will hear opening remarks from our newly elected District 1 City Councilman, Bear Heiser. Welcome, Councilman Heiser.
Thank you, Stephanie, for orchestrating this event. I really appreciate it and the hard work collaborating with the Kiwanis Club and local high schools and all of you in this room who made the decision to be here today. To Vanessa, right in front of me, thank you for asking me to be here. It really is an honor and means a lot. I appreciate the relationship we've developed in such a short time. In a sermon delivered on March 8th, 1965 in Selma, the day after Bloody Sunday, Dr. King said the words, "A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand for that which is true." Those words are just as important today as they were 58 years ago. Living a life that is rooted in ignorance is not living a life at all. It's living a life that is rooted in the word no. One of the easiest things you can do in this world is say no. It's far too easy in 1965 and even today to say no when it comes to doing the right thing, to doing what's difficult, to stand up and saying something when you see something. Dr. King is the model example of someone who said yes to doing the hard thing. Dr. King did that every day of his life. Living with your head up is what living is all about. To all the young people in this room, while today is, I just met the majority of you for the first time, you all said yes to being here. You said yes to standing up and speaking in front of a room full of people to honor such an important man. As a newly elected public official, I can tell you that for a long time I said no to doing the hard thing. I was in high school when I figured out that a life of public service was in my future, but getting started was the hardest part. It took me 20-some years to say yes, and I carry around a lot of regret for wasting a lot of time. By being here today, you all have taken that first step. If I can share one piece of advice, the canvas that will become your life will not be painted today. It will be painted over time. What you do with your life will not be realized today, tomorrow, or the next day. It's a progression of steps, one that leads to the next. And to get today, together, we are taking a step forward. One person is not capable of changing the world, but together, to affect systematic change, we have that ability. And I am very optimistic for the future. And as a community, I look forward to working with all of you to try to create a better environment, a more inclusive environment, a more representative environment for everybody in this growing city. So with that, thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation for being here, and thank you again.
Thank you, Councilman Heiser. We will now begin student speeches. We have invited high school students from across Hayes CISD to give speeches from their perspective of social justice within our community. This morning, students will be reading speeches, prose, and poems that highlight the essence of Dr. King. Our first student speaker this morning is Anthony Johnson, a student at Lehman High School reciting a speech. Welcome, Anthony.
We should make a documentary about spades, made by Terrence Hayes. And here it is. All we need is a card deck quartet of some people. Of some, the sort found in black college dormitories, some vintage music, indiscriminate spirits, fried chicken, some paper, a writing utensil, and a bottomless Saturday. We should explore the origins of derogatory word like spade, as well as the word for feeling alone in the polite company. And also the applications of calling someone who's not your brother or sister. So little is known of our past, we can imagine damn near anything. When I say maybe slaves held spades tournaments on the anti-cruise ships, bound for the colonies. You say When our ancestors were coped on those ships, they were not yet slaves. Our groundbreaking film should begin with the low-lead den in the South Deep fried voice of somebody's grandmother holding smoke in her mouth. She says, "The two diamond trumps the two of spades. In my house, and at some point, someone should tell the story with Jesus and the devil, our spade partners traveling the juke joints of the 1930s. We could interview my Uncle Junior, and you're definitely your skinny cousin, and any black man sitting at a card table wearing shades. Who do you suppose will win if Booker T and MLK were matched against Du Bois and Malcolm X? In a game of spades, you say don't talk across the table, pay attention to the suits being played. The object of the game is to communicate invisibly with your teammate. I should concentrate. Do you suppose we are here in some lonely, acute, disaporified way? We should be explored in our film about spades. Because it is in one of the ways I am still learning what it is to be black. Tonight, I am ready to master spades. 4 players to bid a bid of number of books. Each team adds the bids of 2 partners and total number of the books. The team must try to win. Is that not right? This game is the test of boundaries between mathematics and magic. If you ask me, a bid must be intuitive, like itchiness of the upper lip when you sip strange whiskey. My mother did not drink, which is how I knew something was wrong with her, but she held a dry spot at the table. When couples came to play, it's a scene from my history, but this is probably something not to be mentioned in our documentary. About spades, renege is akin to the word for the shame you feel watching someone else's humiliation. Slapping a card down must be as dramatic as hitting the face of a drum with your palm, not hitting the face of a drum with a drumstick. You say there may be the sort of outrage induced by liquor and trash talk and poor strategy, but it will fade, the way a watermark left on the table by a cold glass fade. I suspect winning this sort of game makes you feel godly. I'm good. I'm ready for whoever we're playing. Against tonight, I am trying to imagine our enemy. I know you're not my enemy, but you say there are no enemies in spades. Spades is a game our enemies do not play.
Thank you, Anthony. Next, we will hear from Kaylin Barnes, a student at Lehman High School, reciting a speech. Welcome, Kaylin.
In This Place, an American lyric by Amanda Gorman. There's a poem in this place, in the footfalls, in the halls, in the quiet beat of the seeds. It is here, at the current of day, where America writes a lyric you must whisper to say. There's a poem in this place, in the heavy grace, the lined face of this noble building, collections burned and reborn twice. There's a poem in Boston's Copley Square where protest chants tear through the air like sheets of rain, where love of the many swallows hatred of the few. There's a poem in Charlottesville where tiki torches string a ring of flame tight round the wrist of night, where men so white they gleam blue. Seem like statues where men heap that long wax burning ever higher, where heather higher blooms forever in a meadow of resistance. There's a poem in the great sleeping giant of Lake Michigan, defiantly raising its big blue head to Milwaukee and Chicago. A poem begun long ago, blazed into frozen soil, strutting upward and aglow. There's a poem in Florida, in East Texas, where streets swell into a nexus of rivers, cows afloat like mottled buoys in the brown, where courage is so now common that 23-year-old Jesus Contreras rescues people from the floodwaters. There's a poem in Los Angeles, yawning wide as the Pacific tide, where a single mother swelters in a windowless classroom, teaching Black and brown students in Watts to spell out their thoughts so her daughter may write this poem for you. There's a lyric in California where thousands of students march for blocks, undocumented and unafraid, where my friend Rosa finds the power to blossom in deadlock, her spirit of the bedrock of her community. She knows hope is like a stubborn ship gripping a dock, a truth that you can't stop a dreamer and knock down a dream. How could this not be her city, Su Nacion, our country, our America, our American lyric to write? A poem by the people, the poor, the Protestant, the Muslim, the Jew, the native, the immigrant, the black, the brown, the blind, the brave, the undocumented and undeterred, the woman, the man, the non-binary, the white, the trans, and more. Tyrants fear the poet. Now that we know it, we can't blow it. We owe it to show it and not slow it, although it hurts to sow it when the world skirts below it. Hope. We must bestow it like a wick in the poet so it can grow, lit, bringing with it stories to rewrite. The story of a Texas city depleted but not defeated, a history written that need not be repeated, a nation composed but not yet completed. There's a poem in this place, a poem in America, a poet in every American who rewrites this nation, who tells a story worthy of being told on this minnow of an earth to breathe hope into a pamplemousse of time, a poet in every American who sees that our poem pen doesn't mean our poems end. There's a place where this poem dwells. It is here, it is now, in the yellow song of a dawn's bell, where we write an American lyric we are just beginning to tell. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Alessandra Gonzalez, a student at Lehman High School, who will be reading the poem Equality by Maya Angelou and the analysis essay on said poem called The Neighborhood of Shadows. Welcome, Alessandra.
Equality, a poem by Maya Angelou. You declare you see me dimly, through a glass which will not shine. Though I stand before you boldly, trim in rank and marking time. You do own to hear me faintly, as a whisper out of range, while my drums beat on the message and the rhythm never change. Equality, and I will be free. Equality, and I will be free. You announce my way are wanton, that I fly from man to man, but if I'm just a shadow to you, could you even understand? We have lived a painful history, we know the shameful past, but I keep marching forward and you keep on coming last. Equality, and I will be free. Equality, and I will be free. Take the blinders from your vision, take the padding from your ears, and confess you've heard me crying, and admit you've seen my tears. Hear the tempo so compelling, hear the blood throb in my veins. Yes, my drums are beating nightly, and the rhythm never change. Equality, and I will be free. Equality, and I will be free. The Neighborhood of Shadows by Lauren Moore. Equality, a state of being equal, especially in rights and opportunities. There it is, the definition in black and white. Clear as day. It should be this simple. However, people everywhere are yet to see the equality. People are deemed as targets in a country where equality is thrown into the faces as an excuse for wretched behavior. Hatred and bigotry are clouding rational humanity. Maya Angelou explores the wide world dilemma in her poem Equality, with metaphors of shadows and drums. Angelou displays the everyday frustration of the oppression in the society that draws a blind eye. She paints the worlds of both sides, creating a clashing scenario and expressing her thoughts in a mere 3-part poem. Powerful, the stanzas are joined together by anagrams, equality, and I will be free. Angelou beings her poem by exploring the rosy interpretation of the world through the eyes of blissful ignorance. The general you she addresses in the unmoving society in which we live, By disclosing this obstinance, she makes a statement saying that this society will not silence her despite how it views her. She claims that whether I am a whisper or a shout in your ears, I will be heard. Additionally, the paradox of light and dark Angelo uses are meant to signify the constant battle of being seen. The darkness resembles the box society has put her in, along with anyone who doesn't fit in the dreadful specific criteria of acceptable. The light, contrastingly, is the greatest created by the oppressed individuals that constantly shine brightly. This class represents the fight of acknowledgement in a society that is merely trying to shield the luster. Angelo that proceeds to paint the picture of her world, the real world, the world of a shadow. In the interpretation, she describes the challenges both she and the Black community face affiliating herself with her people with a we. She conveys the message that we are insulted in a society for merely breathing, existing. We are looked at as if we are a menace. However, she counteracts this scrutiny with a question. If I am so small compared to your superiority, how could you possibly understand? She verbalizes the African American struggle, the struggle that we as a race will be burdened with for the rest of our life. In the final part of her poem, Angelo addresses the you audience once again. However, this time instead of an accusatory tone, she proves you with a call to action. Listen, see, confess, admit, hear. With the diction used, she proves the driving point that we are here to stay and it's time for you to listen. Our lives are worth your ears. Our heartbeats represented with the repeated idea of drums and rhythms and never should stop beating. The African American experience in the United States is a complex one, and Angelo's equality portrays exactly that. Every day the community continues to succeed, from historical figures to academic excellence. African Americans proceed to break barriers, however, the immobile view shadows the greatness that is occurring. Closed-minded individuals constantly transform movement meant to heal into controversial subjects. Therefore, hating change, roadblocks caused by conflict of interest, are a recurring event, which is why moving towards true equality has been long and a grueling process. The word keeps spinning and Black excellence still goes unnoticed. Consequently, the negative notion being depicted when describing African Americans remain. These prejudices continue to run rampant, especially within the impressionable youth. In the world they are given where empathy is near non-existent. Their generation is inevitable, built from a base of hate. Young African Americans everywhere are subject to race ridicule. I am no different. The stares, the whisper, the fear. I realized that to society, I wasn't intelligent. I wasn't a human being. I didn't fully comprehend how important it was to speak the truth until I was told to be quiet. However, instead of falling a helpless victim, I became inspired to carrying the torch of those who came before me. I feel a sense of pride in my people, words, and persistent in the fight of true equality. Me to exist and exist beautifully. Despite the bigotry, I smile in the face of adversaries. I refuse to sink and I refuse to fall. Maya Angelou's words characterize African American in a positive spotlight, encouraging them to embrace the melanin in their skin. Black is beautiful, Black is powerful. African Americans deserve to feel a sense of pride when speaking of their culture. Black deserves to be celebrated. Nevertheless, this problem is still among us. We're not people to you, the rigid society content with controversial intolerance. We are just a distant neighbor of shadows. Others are too afraid to explore. If we were considered civilized human beings, this controversy wouldn't exist. There would be no biases, no demanding insults, no racism, nothing. What is not fully comprehended is that we, the minority, are not the people, rather we are the ones trying to mend race relations. Time keeps passing, but society's views remain the same. Black is evil, Black is corrupt, Black is poison, white is right. Race shouldn't determine the way people are viewed. Yes, it is mattered of race. Yes, it still matters, even now. Equality isn't here yet. Therefore, I am stuck in this change. We all are, until everyone sees what is truly happening, until everyone can understand equality, and I will be free. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessandra. Next, we will hear from Tristan McDonald, a student at Lehman High School, discussing his perspectives of history and social justice. Welcome, Tristan.
On January 15th, the actual birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the People's Organization for Progress held its annual march in his honor in Newark. The group believed the best way to honor Dr. King is to protest injustice and put forward a social justice agenda. Fighting racism in all of its form was at the top of the agenda then, and it must be at the top of the agenda today. A few claim that racism no longer exists, and some even claim it's less of a problem today. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The ideal of racial inferiority is still very much alive in America, and it must be denounced, condemned, and relegated to the trash heap of society. We must continue challenging We must continue to challenge racist ideology, laws, policies, behaviors, and culture. We must root it out of our foundation and society. We must work fervently to eliminate racial inequality. In his 1967 speech, The Other America, delivered at the Stanford University, Dr. King discussed how the U.S. government gave white settlers land to provide them with an economic floor. However, similar acts was not taken for the former enslaved African Americans. He quoted Fredrick Douglass, who said, "Emancipation meant freedom to starve." However, while Dr. King would have supported the demands we marched for, I believe he would have wanted us to strive for more far-reaching changes. King was more than a foreman, he was a revolutionary. He not only wanted policies, legislative, and institutional change, he wanted systematic change. Thank you.
Thank you, Tristan. Next, we will hear from Sienna Rodriguez, a sophomore at Lehman High School, reciting a poem from One Today by Richard Blanco. Welcome, Sienna.
One Today by Richard Blanco. One sun rose on us today, kindled over our shores, greeting the faces of the Great Lakes and spreading a simple truth across the Great Plains, then charging across the Rockies. One light, waking up rooftops, under each one a story, told by our silent gestures moving behind windows. My face, your face, millions of faces in morning mirrors, each one yawning to life, crescendoing into our day. Penciled yellow school buses, the rhythm of traffic lights, fruit stands, apples, limes, and oranges arrayed like rainbows, begging our praise. Silver trucks heavy with oil or paper, bricks or milk, teeming over highways alongside us, on our way to clean tables, read ledgers, or save lives, to teach geometry, or ring up groceries as my mother did for 20 years so I could write this poem. As vital as the one light we move through, the same light on blackboards with lessons for the day, equations to solve, history to question, or atoms imagined, the I have a dream we keep dreaming. or the impossible vocabulary of sorrow that won't explain the empty desk of 20 children marked absent today and forever. Many prayers bode one light-breathing color into stained glass windows, life into the faces of bronze statues, warmth onto the steps of our museums and park benches as mothers watch children slide into the day. One ground, our ground, rooting us to every stalk of corn, every head of wheat sown by sweat and hands gleaning coal or planting windmills in deserts and hilltops that keep us warm, hands digging trenches, routing pipes and cables, hands as worn as my father's cutting sugar cane so my brother and I could have books and shoes. The dust of farms and deserts, cities and plains, mingled by one wind, our breath. Breathe. Hear it through the day's gorgeous din of honking cabs, buses launching down avenues, the symphony of footsteps, guitars, and screeching subways, the unexpected songbird on your clothesline. Here, the squeaky playground swings, trains whistling or whispers across the cafe tables. Here, the doors we open for each other all day saying, hello, shalom, buongiorno, howdy, namaste, or buenos dias in the language my mother taught me. In every language spoken into one wind carrying our lives without prejudice, as these words break from my lips. One sky, since the Appalachians and Sierras claimed their majesty, and the Mississippi and Colorados worked their way to sea. Thank the work of our hands, weaving steel into bridges, finishing one more report for the boss on time, stitching another wound or uniform, the first brush stroke on a portrait, or the last floor on the Freedom Tower, jutting into the sky that yields our resilience. One sky, toward which we sometimes lift our eyes tired from work, some days guessing at the weather of our lives, some days giving thanks for a love that loves you back, sometimes praising a mother who knew how to give, or forgiving a father who couldn't give what you wanted. We head home through the gloss of rain, or the weight of snow, or the plum blush of dusk, but always home, always under one sky, our sky, and always one moon, like a silent drum tapping on every rooftop and every window of one country. All of us, facing the stars, hope, a new constellation waiting for us to map it, waiting for us to name it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sienna. Next, we will hear from Mallory Russell, who attends Johnson High School, performing the poem The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman, which details the way in which Americans must find light in darkness in order to get closer to justice and equality within a divided nation. Welcome, Mallory.
The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? A loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast, we've seen that quiet isn't always peace, and we learn the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice, and yet the dawn is ours before we knew it, and somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose. To compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, and characters and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but to what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we tired, we tried, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges that we made. That is the promised glade. The hill we climb, if only we dare it. It's because being American is more than the pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation, become the future. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. We will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover, and every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered but beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we are brave enough to be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mallory. Next, we will hear from Aggie Sierra, a junior at Hayes High School, performing a poem titled Bent to the Earth by Blas Manuel de Luna, which highlights the treatment of Mexican farmers in the United States, showing how poorly people are treated based on race and skin color. Welcome, Aggie.
Bent to the Earth by Blas Manuel de Luna. They had hit Reuben with the high beams, had blinded him so the van that he was driving, full of Mexicans going to pick tomatoes, would have to stop. Reuben spun the van into an irrigation ditch, spun the 5-year-old me awake to immigration officers, their batons already out, looking for the soft spots on the body, to my mother being handcuffed and dragged to a van, to my father trying to show him our green cards. They let us go, but Alvarado was going back. So was his brother Fernando, so was their sister Sonia. Their mother did not escape, and so she was going back. Their father was somewhere in the field and was free, but there were no great truths to reveal to me then, no wisdom given to me by anyone. I was a child who had seen what a piece of polished wood could do to a face, who had seen his father about to lose the one he loved, who had lost some friends who would never return, who later that morning bent to the earth and went to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Aggie. Next, we will hear from BB Davis, a senior at Hayes High School, performing an original speech. Welcome, BB.
Hi, thank you all. I come from a Hispanic heritage, so speaking up here doesn't feel right. It feels sort of out of place. But we are here to honor a very important historical figure, one that has permanently influenced our lifestyle and culture as Americans. Martin Luther King was in prison nearly 30 times, but he was also released every single time. His charges resulted from going over the speed limit, having a false license, false tax returns, boycotting, and civil disobedience. Civil disobedience. I can't speak for all of you, but in my opinion, civil disobedience is just another word for advocating. Martin Luther King was a smart and peaceful protester. So am I, but in this day and age, we have to be a bit more ruthless to get any attention. I'm not here to lecture you about the importance of MLK. You've listened and will listen to speakers who will tell you all about that. But I'm here to point out that we are all equal. We need more people like Martin. We need advocates who are willing to put their lives on the line for problems still present in our society, like racism, gender discrimination, the freedom to openly protest, and to make laws that will protect our safety. What Martin Luther King did back then was just a glimpse of the unfair fight that we continue to fight for today. And unfortunately, it will go on in the future. There will be unjust, and there will be people who will want to take our rights away. But we can't drag our feet when it comes to that. We have to take a stand, we have to think of others, and we will have to fight. But when we do, we will all have smiles on our faces because we will be fighting for something we believe in. American values live on fear. But Martin's last words before his death was that he was not afraid. He said, and I quote, "I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man." He was happy and he was fearless. His strength was the death of him. But keep in mind that although he died, his dreams didn't. His dreams and his message was actually spread across the entire nation and even the world that we have to continue to fight for what we believe in. I'm not telling you you have to put others first. I'm not telling you you have to put yourself first, but you have to put your beliefs first. As Americans, we have to be proud of what we believe in, and we have to be strong. People like Martin Luther King will never be forgotten. All in attendance of this celebration share an equal value. The value and promise that we will keep fighting for what he started, and while we do it, we are to remain happy and fearless, just as he was. Because I know for a fact there's a light at the end of this tunnel. I know that we can achieve a world where there is little to no hate, a world where we are all seen as equals and we will even achieve equal rights. I'm proud to be here today to speak. Thank you all for staying and listening, and I know these are harsh words, but I say them out of happiness. I speak out of hope for our future, and I want you all to share the same hope for a brighter and safer existence. Thank you, everyone, and keep fighting.
Thank you, Bibi. Our final student speaker is Joy Imani, a sophomore at Lehman High School, performing 2 poems titled I Dream a World by Langston Hughes, which highlights the path to peace through an I Have a Dream lens. She will also be reciting the poem Martin Luther King Day by Myra Livingston. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you. Martin Luther King Day by Myra Cohen Livingston. The dream of Martin Luther King will happen in some far-off spring, when winter ice and snow are gone. One day the dreamer in a gray dawn will waken to the blinking light, where a hawk and a dove in a silent fright brush wings together on a street, still thundering with ghostly feet, and a soul will dance and a soul will sing and march with Martin Luther King. I Dream a World by Langston Hughes. I dream a world where man no other man will scorn, where love will bless the earth and peace is birthed on. I dream a world where all will know a sweet freedom way, where greed will no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights our day. A world dream where black or white will never, whatever race you may be, will share the bounties of the earth and every man is free. Where righteousness will hang its head and a joy like a pearl attends the nights of all mankind. Of such I dream my world. When I was reading these 2 poems, my interpretation came out was this utopia world. I wish for all of us to have that dream, to be able to experience equal freedom and equal opportunities, such as applying for a job and not putting your race on the thing, your race not mattering, or whatever you may be. I dream a world we can dream that world too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy. Next, we will hear from Susan Reyna, member of the Friends of Kyle Library and Kyle-Buda Kiwanis Club, reading a book titled My Daddy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by Martin Luther King III. Welcome, Susan.
I wanted to start by thanking the Kyle Library. This is their copy of the book, and I'll return it today if anyone would like to check it out. Okay. My Daddy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by Martin Luther King III, illustrated by A.G. Ford. I I grew up with a famous father. My name is Martin Luther King III. But when I was a kid, my friends and family called me Marty, so no one would confuse me with my father, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. When I was 5 years old, my dad gave one of his most famous speeches. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed, that all men are created equal, he declared. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I am the second of those 4 children he spoke about. There have been a lot of books written about my father, but not a whole lot has been written about my dad. This book is about my daddy, what it was like to live with him, and how much I loved him. My sister Yolanda, who we call Yoki, and I wanted to go to Funtown more than anything. Well, kids, you know Daddy is working very hard so that you and all children can go to Funtown, but it's not possible today, Daddy would say. Maybe next week, but that week never came. You just don't want to take us, Yoki wailed, and finally my mother explained. We were not allowed in Funtown. The rides and the roller coasters were for white people only. That's how it was when I was growing up. My dad fought to change that. At home, though my father was just dad, he tossed the football with me, taught me how to shoot hoops, teased me, and played with me. He would lift me up and put me on top of the refrigerator. I imagined swinging from the ceiling fan as if I were flying in my own airplane. Then I would let Daddy catch me as I fell into his arms. Away from home, things were different. It wasn't always easy being the son of Martin Luther King Jr. What's your name? The 2 older boys asked. I don't remember, I said. I forgot. I knew it was wrong to lie. Why'd you say that, Marty? My mom asked later. You know your name. It's your father's name. I knew, and I knew why I hadn't said my name, because I was afraid. Some people didn't like my father's work. He was stirring up trouble, they said. My father never stole anything or hurt anyone. Even so, he was thrown in jail more than 30 times. He had the courage to stand up and say, "This law is unfair," and sometimes he was arrested for that. Once a neighbor was driving me home from school. On the radio, we heard that Reverend Martin Luther King and about 80 other people had been thrown in jail. I was terrified. I ran inside my house crying and asked my mother, "Why did Daddy go to jail? What did he do wrong?" My mother hugged me. "Your dad went to jail to help people," she told me. "Some people don't have enough to eat, or comfortable homes, or clothes to wear. They are not as fortunate as we are. Daddy went to jail to make it possible for all people to have these things. Don't worry, Daddy will be coming back." I carried her words close to my heart. A year later, when Daddy was arrested again, Yoki was afraid that he wouldn't be back for Christmas. This time, I was the one who consoled her. "Don't cry, Yoki. Daddy will be back. He has to help the people. He has already helped some people, but he has to help some more. And when he finishes, he'll be back." My father was not the only one in danger. Many people were hurt or even killed as they tried to change unfair laws. Once, as I marched in a protest, I saw a pretty lady with a bandage over her nose. My mother explained that she'd been attacked by a police officer. The marchers were peaceful, but that didn't stop the people from trying to hurt them. Even police officers sprayed marchers with fire hoses or turned dogs on them. Later, a police officer came up to us with a huge dog that growled at me. I was terrified. "It's okay, Marty," my dad told me as he took my hand. and I felt safe. My dad was not a tall man, but he always made me feel like he was a giant. I was never afraid when I was with him. No matter how bad it got, my dad never fought back. We must meet violence with nonviolence. We must meet hate with love, he always said. Nonviolence wasn't just for marches and protests. It was for home as well. One Christmas, my brother Dexter and I got toy guns for presents. Most of the other boys in the neighborhood played with guns, and we wanted to be just like them. But we knew that guns were wrong. They were not toys. They were machines made to hurt and kill. Together, the whole family took the guns outside, made a bonfire, and destroyed them. That night, as my brother and I watched our gifts burn, we believed we were destroying all the hate in the world. One bonfire couldn't fix everything, but some things were getting better, like the law that kept black and white children from going to the same school. When I was in 3rd grade, that law was finally changed. My mother told Yoki and me that we'd be going to a new school in September. I didn't want to be the new kid who sat alone. Yoki felt the same way. We don't want to go, we complained. We don't want to be the only black kids at the school. My mother said she'd see what she could do. The day before school started, we found out that our 3 friends, the Abernathys, would be going with us to the Spring Street School. I was glad to have my friends and my sister with me because when we got to the school, there were flash bulbs going off and TV cameras everywhere. Why did reporters want to talk to us? We were just kids going to school like anybody else. We were each in different classrooms. It was strange to be the only black kid in my class. I felt like everyone was staring at me the whole day. One kid even made a nasty comment. "Wouldn't you rather go to school with your own kind?" he asked. "Why aren't you at your own school?" "We're all the same kind. We're all kids, and Spring Street is my school now," I said. My father taught for us to be just kids attending the same schools. It's what he meant when he said he dreamed of his children being judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. One school at a time, one child at a time, one heart at a time. That is how the world is changed. By reaching out to other people with kindness and compassion, my father was changing minds and unfair laws. He once said, "We have a power within us which is more powerful than the power of bullets." That power was love and faith. It was a bullet that ended my father's life, but it did not stop his message. It did not stop his work. My father was there to see me start school, but he wasn't there to see me graduate. I was only 10 years old when he was killed. I was so young when my dad died, but I'm blessed with the memory of a warm and playful man, and I'm reminded of him everywhere I go. There are streets and churches and schools named for my father in almost every city in the United States, and on the 3rd Monday of every January, we celebrate his birthday as a national holiday. These things honor his memory and keep his spirit alive. We must continue to change minds as my father did. We must continue my father's work for freedom and for equality for all. It wasn't always easy being his son, but I am so proud to be that son, and I am so proud to share his name. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. We're going to have that book in the library very soon, so keep an eye out for it. Next, we will hear from our new library director, Colleen Tierney, who will be sharing some words from Coretta Scott King, who was Dr. King's wife from 1953 until his passing. Mrs. King also served as a leader and activist in the civil rights movement alongside her husband. Welcome, Colleen.
you, Stephanie. It's such a fabulous event. I'm so proud and honored to be part of it. As I reflected on the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I was compelled by the words of his daughter, Dr. Bernice King. She states, "It would be impossible to celebrate Martin Luther King Day without mentioning my mother, Coretta Scott King. She was the architect of Dr. King's legacy. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and work are what we're honoring here today. But if not for the courage, faith, vision, and perseverance of Coretta Scott King, this day of service and honor would simply not exist." Just 4 days after Martin Luther King's assassination, Coretta Scott King showed up in Memphis, Tennessee, the city where he was assassinated, with her children in tow to march. She said, "I think I need to go finish his work. I've been with him as a partner on all these other marches." She gave the speech that her husband was supposed to give. She asked the gathered crowd, "How many men must die before we can really have a free and true and peaceful society? I believe that this nation can be transformed into a society of love and justice, peace and brotherhood, where all men can really be brothers." Coretta Scott King proposed Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday as a holiday shortly after he was assassinated in 1968. Along with Coretta Scott King, a bipartisan group of senators and congresspeople worked tirelessly to push Congress to pass legislation to make January 15th a national holiday. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill commemorating January 15th as a national holiday. In 1986, George H.W. Bush, with Coretta Scott King joining him at the White House, celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. as the first modern private citizen to have a national holiday in their honor. It is now celebrated in all 50 states in over 100 countries around the world. After her husband's death, Coretta Scott King's life was dedicated to continuing and preserving his legacy. Their dream for a better world now lives on through the work of their children, who run the King Center in Atlanta, dedicated to nonviolence and justice through education and advocacy. This gathering here today is part of the ongoing commitment to further the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I'll close with a quote from his son, Martin Luther King III. "My father's dream is not just a speech he gave or an idyllic view of what could be. My father's dream is something we must choose each and every day to work towards. Together, we are all my father's legacy."
Thank you, Colleen. Next, we will hear from Dr. Vanessa Westbrook, Chair of the Arts and Cultural Commission here in Kyle. She will be reciting the original version of Lift Every Voice and Sing. The song originally started as a poem written by Harlem Renaissance writer James Weldon Johnson and set to music by his brother James Rosamond Johnson. It speaks joyfully about the hope and resilience of Black people transcending the enslavement and discrimination of the past and celebrating freedom. Eventually, school children began singing the song, and it wasn't until much later that the brothers found out that their song was being used around the world for civil rights movements. Welcome, Dr. Westbrook.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Okay, I'm not going to punish you by singing this song, but I do hope to inspire you by reading this poem. Lift every voice and sing. James Weldon Johnson. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trode, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way with tears that have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the light, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us from far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from places, our God, where we meet thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Lift every voice and sing, James Weldon Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Westbrook. Next, we will hear from our newly elected District 3 City Councilman, Dr. Miguel Zuniga, with remarks detailing education and social justice within our community. Councilman Zuniga has lived in Kyle and Hays County all of his life. He graduated from Hays CISD and went on to earn a doctorate degree in organic chemistry. He has served as a leader in research for nonprofits and small startups working to develop new detections. He has served his community by volunteering for the Simon PTA, the Kyle Citizens Police Academy Training Program, the Kyle Train Depot, and his local HOA. He has served as a leader by working with the city and departments for safety in Kyle and raising concerns for wastewater treatment plants by neighborhoods. Councilman Zuniga cites MLK as an inspiration and hopes to lead Kyle to be more inclusive and a diverse community. Welcome, Councilman Zuniga.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everyone, and I just wanted to say this is a great gathering. Really nice to see families and our communities come together and to witness the progress and many examples of how far the movement for equality and justice has come. I would like to congratulate all our speakers today and the organizers of this MLK Day. It's an excellent job. So I'm honored to be invited to share a few thoughts on the legacy and work of Dr. Martin Luther King. As I was growing up, I learned about Dr. Martin Luther King and about the civil rights struggles for equality, fairness, and our country's founding principle that all men and women are created equal. Dr. Martin Luther King and all civil rights leaders were instrumental in paving the path so that no matter where you start or what you look like, we now have better opportunities and with self-determination, the ability to reach our highest potential. Dr. Martin Luther King's message of peace, education, love for mankind, and citizen responsibility to come to action and to ensure we all have a seat at the table is what unites and brings many of us from various backgrounds and perspectives together. This message is powerful because we understand that in order to have long-lasting peace, we must love, respect, and encourage and support one another. Today is a historical day for us to be proud and to celebrate the spirit and to support the work of Dr. Martin Luther King and all civil rights leaders, to use this day as a reminder that we are stronger, united, and that we can solve all challenges we face together, to make our government better so that the dream and the vision of those in the past and the hopes for future generations will continue to flourish in the greatest country in the world and in our communities. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Councilman Zuniga. Next, we will hear some closing remarks from District 6 Mayor Pro Tem Michael Tobias. Councilman Tobias comes from a third-generation family in the city of Kyle, serving on the city council since February of 2020. He has served Kyle on various committees such as the Kyle Compensation Committee, the Vibe Trail Task Force, and the TIRZ Commission. He has served Travis County for 20 years in the Sheriff's Department, receiving numerous accolades, and was most recently awarded the top honor of 2022 Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas Officer of the Year Award in Houston, Texas. He is proud to have grown up studying in Hayes CISD, where his children have also grown up going to school. Welcome, Councilman Tobias.
Wow, thank you very much. It's great to be here. I want to go ahead and first of all thank the Arts and Cultural Commission for helping sponsor this as well, the library for their hard work, city staff for everything that you do for making sure this presentation is here. I also want to thank the community that's here in front of us and those who are watching us live. It's great to see that we have so much support from our community and that sincere, which leads to where I have the vision here of Dr. Martin Luther King vision of the beloved community. But if you could see right off the bat, I have a lapel here that was given to me by my father when I was in high school many years ago, that says Primero Familia. We are united as a family, no matter what. So Martin Luther King's vision of a beloved community. Dr. King believed that a community of love, justice, and solidarity would eventually come to reality. That is why he worked so hard with so many to show compassion, tolerance, and faith for the realization of peace and harmony in our society. Dr. King's vision of a completely integrated society and a true community of love and justice, of brotherhood and sisterhood would be inclusive in all of daily life. In his mind, such a community would be based on ideals, foundation, expressions shown through faith in humanity. And it was also justice for everyone. After the march to Montgomery in the spring of '66, thousands of marchers were delayed at the airport because their planes were late. Dr. King tells that he was so deeply impressed by the unity of the crowd. As I stood with them, I saw white, Negro, nuns, priests, ministers, rabbis, labor organizations, laborers, doctors, housemates, shop workers, brimming with a variety to enjoying a rare camaraderie. I knew I was seeing a microcosm of what mankind of the future in this moment of luminous and genuine brotherhood. Isn't that amazing? In Dr. King's view, he felt the overall view of human existence means injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This is a lesson we must continue today, not only for my generation, but for our young and young adults in our country and around the world to embrace that mindset. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Dr. Martin Luther King believed that all people are created equal and should enjoy the same rights and privileges. On one of his most deeply touching lines and famous I Have a Dream speech, which was mentioned earlier, that he hoped that children would be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That, ladies and gentlemen, is still so true today. So to my generation, those before me and after, we need to listen. We need to listen. Listen and understand, have conversations to respect each other, others and their differences, to be role models for the next generation. Am I correct? So in closing, to all the students participating, I want to say thank you. Thank you for not only being here and sharing your stories and your poems to our city and our community, but thank you for understanding that it is you. It is all of you. Your voices, your stories, your differences, your freedoms, your dreams that will give purpose in the future to create a community, your community. A community that is more inclusive society for everyone. Each one of you has a responsibility. In the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., demonstrate your commitment to learn, love, understand that yes, we may be different. We may all look different. We may also speak different languages, but we all deserve our human right to be treated equal. Do we agree? My young friends, listen. You are the future. You are future high school teachers, doctors, nurses, first responders, police, fire, EMS, military servicemen and women. You are future business owners, elected officials like our council members that are here before us, and Commissioner Dr. Michelle Gutierrez-Cohen, future mayors, future college graduates, professors, fashion designers, hairstylists, construction workers, future mothers and fathers. Anything you want to achieve, you are the future. It is your time. Use your voice. It is your time to challenge yourself. It is your time to encourage, to stand up, championing by helping those who are being neglected and looked down upon in society. It is your time to experience the good in all people, including those with disabilities, elderly, and those with special needs. They too deserve the same human dignity and respect as everyone. It is your time to celebrate and welcome each other's differences with love, understanding, and compassion. So in the words of Dr. King, don't allow anybody to make you feel like nobody. Always feel you count. Always feel that you have worth, and always feel that your life has ultimate significance. Ladies and gentlemen, and the youth in my generation, embrace diversity. Embrace diversity. Embrace unity. When you do that, you have a great community. It is your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Tobias. I would like to personally thank everyone as Mistress of Ceremonies for coming out to this very special event, which we hope continues for many more years to come. Before we begin the second half of our event, I'd like to keep you apprised of some of the events taking place in February for Black History Month. We will be conducting a Peace and Progress panel on February 17th themed Black Resilience, Past, Present, and Future, moderated by Dr. Vanessa Westbrook here in City Hall. Simon Middle School will be displaying student artwork during the first week of February in City Hall. Councilman Tobias will be reading a proclamation for Black History Month. The city of Kyle will be saluting African Americans on social media, And make sure to keep up with the Kyle Public Library's calendar, as they'll be adding more events for Black History Month very soon. As we conclude the speech portion of our event today, please join us afterwards for some refreshments, and we'll be projecting some speeches and interviews with Dr. King. If you haven't already, please pick up a biography and bookmark for Dr. King, and the bookmark has some book and documentary recommendations for your Monday off. If you're watching through the live stream, you can pick up this bookmark at the Kyle Public Library. Now, I'd like to invite the students to come up here. We have a little something for you. So, first up, Joy Imani. Anthony Johnson. Kaylin Barnes. Alessandra Gonzalez. Sienna Rodriguez. Mallory Russell. Aggie Sierra. And finally, BB Davis. Thank y'all for coming out, and we're going to get a picture with you.
All right, everyone ready? Right here. 1, 2, and 3. Let me get one more picture. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Perfect.
Again, a big thank you to all of the Hayes CISD students. We really appreciate you coming out. And with that, have a happy and restful MLK Day, and thank you for joining us in celebrating the legacy of Dr. King.